All right, welcome in everyone to the deep dive. We're going to be tackling something today that I think is pretty universal for anyone in business, no matter what you're doing, what sector you're in. It's a question I think we all wrestle with. How do you keep your customers? Not just like get them, but make them stay.
It's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah. And for this deep dive, we're focusing on insights we can pull from Mark Gafori, founder and CEO of AlphaTooth. He's got this great talk, Retention Solver, where he really breaks down how to optimize that whole journey, for your customers.
Yeah, and especially for folks running businesses or, really into how businesses tick, I think this is going to resonate because client retention, it's always on our minds.
It is. It never goes away. Mm-hmm. And Mark's central point, I think, is something we all kind of feel intuitively, but he lays it out clearly. Like when clients leave, it's rarely just one-off thing. It's usually a symptom of the whole experience you've built, that customer journey, as he calls it.
Every interaction, every single touch point they have with you, from that first hello to, everything ongoing, that's what makes them stick around or head for the door.
That's it. So what we're doing today is extracting the most valuable stuff from Mark's thinking, especially about how we actually make that customer experience the best it can be.
And, Mark does have a lot of experience in the events world, but don't let that fool you. The core stuff here applies no matter what you're selling, what service you provide.
Exactly. This is universal stuff. So let's jump right in. Why is retention even that important? Why not just chase new customers all the time? What does Mark say about that?
Well, he hits you with some numbers right away that make you think. Getting a new customer can cost, get this, like 5 times more than keeping the ones you've got. 5 times! That's massive when you think about where your resources are going.
5 times. That's huge. It really puts things in perspective, right?
Yeah, it does. And then he throws another one at you. About 80%, roughly, of your future revenue. That's probably coming from your existing clients. So if you're neglecting them, you're neglecting a big chunk of your potential growth.
80%, that's a big chunk.
It is. And he also points out that when you see a lot of churn, people leaving all the time, that's not just bad luck. It's telling you something's off deeper down in how your business runs.
Right. It's a symptom of a bigger problem. Okay, so Mark breaks down the customer journey into these key phases. Let's walk through them, starting at the very beginning, that initial decision, and then onboarding. What's he saying about that?
First impressions, right? Gotta nail that. Mark really stresses how crucial it is to make that first step, whether it's signing up, buying something, whatever that initial action is, it has to be crystal clear, super easy for them.
No confusion, no roadblocks.
Exactly. So any little snag there, and they're gone before they've even tried what you offer.
Yeah, I've definitely been there, like confusing website, weird pricing, instant turnoff.
Totally. And he also talks about really understanding what makes people pick you in the first place, but also what might scare others away. Those are both sides of the same coin.
So knowing your strengths and weaknesses, basically.
Exactly. I got to know what's drawing people in and what might be pushing them away.
All right. So they've taken the plunge. They're on board. Now we're into the core experience, the meat of it, delivering the product, the service. This is where it all goes down, right?
This is where the rubber meets the road. Mark's big on this. What you actually deliver has to match what you promised up front. Overpromise, underdeliver. That's a recipe for losing people, and he's got the stats to back it up.
It's all about setting realistic expectations and then meeting them consistently.
Exactly. He also talks about how terrible customer service is a huge driver of churn across industries. People will walk away if they're not treated right, plain and simple.
Oh, yeah. I've had those experiences where, you have a problem, you reach out for help, and it's like talking to a brick wall. That can really sour your whole perception of a company.
Totally. And he makes a good point for those of us in service industries, it's not just about the final product. It's the whole process leading up to it, all those interactions. That's all part of the experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the journey, not just the destination, right? Okay, so we've delivered, the service is done, the product is out there. What about the next phase? Mark talks about follow-up, ongoing engagement, and renewal.
This is the part, he says, a lot of people drop the ball on, but it's crucial for keeping those customers around for the long haul.
Because the experience doesn't just end when you hand off the product or finish the service.
Right. After that core experience, that's when your customers are really deciding if it was worth it. Were their expectations met? Do they want to stick around?
It's like you finish a project, you don't just disappear, right? You stay in touch.
Yeah.
nurture that relationship.
Exactly. Mark's big on staying connected between the big stuff, checking in, providing extra value, that kind of thing. And he's got this crazy stat that for every customer who actually complains to you, there's a bunch more who had the same issue but never said anything. They just quietly leave.
Wow, so for everyone you hear from, there could be like 10 others who just walked away.
Potentially. That's why proactively getting feedback is so important. Surveys, check-ins, anything to catch those silent problems before they turn into lost customers.
Okay, so throughout all these phases, the initial decision, the core experience, the follow-up, Mark talks about touch points and this idea of customer journey mapping. What's he getting at there?
It's like this. Every little interaction a customer has with you, even the ones that seem tiny to you, they all matter. They can make or break that relationship.
It's all about the little things adding up.
Exactly. And customer journey mapping is basically you charting out all those interactions, but from their point of view. What are their goals at each step, and are you helping them get there?
So you're really putting yourself in their shoes, seeing the world through their eyes.
Right. And Mark says when you do this mapping, you'll find those frustrating bits, those broken processes that are making their experience worse, and you can fix them. He gives this example. Imagine a customer, let's call her Jane, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So Jane's trying to use your website, sign up for something, maybe contact support, then maybe renew later on. Each of those is a touch point, and her whole experience is the sum of how well each of those went.
So you can imagine, right? Jane's on the website. It's confusing. She can't find what she needs, or she needs help, and support takes forever. Those are the moments that can make or break it.
Absolutely. And the big takeaway is you're not going to keep Jane around just because one interaction was great. It's about all of them, the whole journey.
Right. You can have the best product in the world, but if the onboarding is a nightmare or the follow-up is non-existent, you're going to lose people.
Exactly. Now, Mark brings in some real-world stories too, case studies to show these principles in action. And he's got a cautionary tale about understanding your client's needs. Really interesting one.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that one.
So he talks about this big client, Fortune 500 company. They really looked at what they were getting out of trade shows and decided it wasn't enough anymore.
Like not enough bang for their buck.
Right. So they cut back their trade show involvement by a huge amount, something like 45%, and started doing more of their own events instead, where they had more control.
Wow, 45%. That's a big statement.
It is, and it shows what Mark's saying. If you're not delivering what your clients need, they'll find someone who does. In this case, the trade show folks probably weren't paying close enough attention to what this client was looking for.
Yeah, they weren't evolving with their clients' needs.
Right. The client probably had specific goals for those trade shows, like getting leads or building their brand, and when those weren't being met, they took things into their own hands. It's a lesson for all of us. Got to keep listening to our clients and adapting to what they need, or they'll find someone who will.
Yeah, complacency can be deadly in business. So, are there any more uplifting examples? What about the Greenbuild case study? What can we learn from that one?
Oh, this is a good one. It's about how shaping the customer journey in a positive way can create real loyalty, even a sense of community. So Greenbuild, they brought in these mandatory sustainability guidelines for exhibitors called GMEG. And they gave them resources, education, even awards for those who did well.
You'd think adding more rules would make people unhappy, right?
You'd think so, but they did it in a way that actually added value. By linking the exhibitor's own commitment to sustainability with the event's overall mission, they created this shared purpose.
It became about something bigger than just buying a booth at a trade show.
Exactly. The exhibitors started seeing themselves as partners in making the event successful, not just participants.
And I bet that led to more exhibitors coming back year after year.
Probably. And they even had those Green Exhibitor Awards, which was a nice touch, positive reinforcement.
So it's not about copying Greenbuild exactly, but finding what matters to your audience and building that into their experience.
Right, making them feel like they're part of something, invested in your mutual success. Okay, now Mark also dives into how data can help us, using those insights to understand our customers better. What were some of the things that stood out to you there?
One that I thought was interesting was about personalized agendas for events. Turns out, sending those out ahead of time was way more effective at getting people to show up than offering random perks.
It makes sense, right? People want to see how what you're offering directly applies to them, not just a bunch of generic freebies.
Tailored information beats random stuff every time.
Absolutely. And he talks about networking, too. You know how exhibitors always want those attendee lists? Well, apparently, a lot of attendees actually want to connect with each other and with exhibitors before the event even starts.
So it's not just about those formal interactions during the event, it's about building connections beforehand.
Right. If you're running an event or even an online community, give people ways to connect early on that taps into that desire.
So facilitating those connections is a valuable part of the experience.
Yeah.
What about the actual content? What did Mark have to say about that?
He found that people would rather hear from real experts in the field talking about innovation and stuff than from celebrities or motivational speakers. They want real actionable knowledge, not just hype.
So substance over flashiness, basically.
Yep. And for the exhibitors, a big pain point was unpredictable costs. They really like those all-inclusive packages where they know exactly what they're paying up front.
Makes sense. Taking the guesswork out of the financial side makes it easier for them to budget and plan.
Exactly. And he talks about exhibitor retention programs too, specifically.
What are those about?
Basically, it's about helping exhibitors get the most out of their participation, promoting their presence, making sure they're getting a good return on their investment.
So it's more than just renting them space. It's about partnering with them for success.
Right. And Mark's overall point here is retention works best when you're really aligned with your customers' goals at every stage of their journey. You got to be customer-centric in your thinking and your actions.
It's about building that understanding and trust. Okay, now Mark gives us this handy framework for evaluating each part of the customer journey, the RETAIN filter. Let's break that down.
Okay, so RETAN, it stands for relevance, empathy, transparency, added value, iteration, and nurture. Each one is like a little checklist for how you're doing.
Okay, so starting with relevance. Is everything you're doing actually relevant to what your customer's trying to achieve?
Because at the end of the day, they'll only stick around if they feel like you're helping them get where they want to go.
Makes sense. Next, empathy. Are you really trying to understand how your customer feels at each point in their journey?
Showing that you care, that you get it, that builds a strong connection.
And then transparency. Being upfront and honest about costs, timelines, expectations, all that.
No surprises, no hidden information. That just erodes trust. Clear communication is key.
What about added value? Is each interaction actually giving the customer something useful, some new knowledge, a helpful resource?
Every step should feel worthwhile for them, not just filler. That's what keeps them engaged and wanting more.
And then iteration, using feedback to constantly improve.
Right. Yep. The customer journey isn't set in stone. You got to be listening to what they're saying and making things better based on that.
Show them you're listening and evolving. And finally, nurture. Building a real relationship that goes beyond just one-off transactions.
Turning customers into loyal fans, that takes time and effort. You got to cultivate that connection, make them feel like part of something.
So the RETAIN filter is a great tool to have in your back pocket, something to keep in mind whenever you're interacting with customers. Now, how about Mark's roadmap for actually optimizing the customer journey? What are the steps he lays out?
First things first, you got to map out your current journey, warts and all, and find those pain points. You can't fix what you don't know is broken, right? So he says, list out every interaction your customers have, from the very first contact to everything that follows, and then use that RETAIN filter to see where you're falling short.
So really understand the experience you're giving them, not just what you think it is.
Exactly. And you use the data you've already got, surveys, support tickets, website analytics, all that stuff, and talk to your frontline employees. They're the ones dealing with customers day in and day out.
They've got the on-the-ground perspective.
Exactly. Step 2 is all about getting rid of those pain points, making things smoother, removing any unnecessary obstacles. Simplify your processes, make instructions clear, make sure your customer service is top-notch.
Because remember, bad customer service is a major reason why people leave.
It is. Step 3 is about personalization, tailoring the experience to each customer's needs. This could be customized marketing messages, personalized onboarding, whatever makes sense for your business.
Make them feel like you're paying attention, that you get them.
Right. Step 4 is about building a community, turning those one-time buyers into loyal fans. Online forums, meetups, consistent communication, loyalty programs, all those things can help.
Creating a space where they feel connected, like they belong.
Exactly. And then step 5, the last one, is all about measuring your progress, making adjustments, and constantly improving. The customer journey isn't a one-time project, it's an ongoing process.
Always be learning, always be adapting.
Exactly. And Mark really drives home the business impact here. He says even a small improvement in your retention rate can have a huge impact on your bottom line.
Because those loyal customers, they keep coming back, they spend more, they tell their friends.
It's a win-win. Okay, so to wrap it all up, Mark Gafori's message is clear. Client retention, it's not magic. It's about actively managing the customer journey. Every interaction counts. He wants you to really examine your own business, see where you might be losing people, what feedback you're getting or not getting.
He wants you to get real with yourself, basically.
Right. Do that customer journey mapping, find those pain points, and be honest about what you find.
No sugarcoating.
And build a culture in your company where everyone understands that the customer comes first, that their experience matters.
You got to be ingrained in everything you do.
Exactly. And ultimately, he says, it all comes down to empathy. Really understanding how your customers feel at every stage of their journey, that's the key to optimizing their experience and building that lasting loyalty.
It's about putting yourself in their shoes, walking a mile in their moccasins.
Exactly. And he leaves us with two challenges, two things to think about. One, pick one thing from this discussion, even a small thing, and actually implement it in your business. And two, ask yourself, would you be a customer of your own business? And why or why not?
That's a powerful question, right? Really forces you to look in the mirror.
It does. So the goal here is to build customer journeys that don't just fix retention problems, but create stronger, more rewarding relationships that benefit everyone involved. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of customer experience, guided by the wisdom of Mark Gafori.
We hope you got some good takeaways, some things to chew on.
And until next time, keep those customers happy.
Take care, everyone.